I might be a little controversial right now, but I think accountability belongs to no one person. So within those roles and responsibilities come different levels of accountability, responsibility. And I think the word I'm looking for is like an obligation to do things in a certain way. I think when we're inside a group or a team and we're working together, we're obligated to do things for the benefit of all, not just for I. It's also very interesting to me that we often hear people, everybody needs to be accountable. So just to counter what I've just said, right? But what does that actually mean to people? Do we actually have that conversation with the person in front of us and say, well, what does accountability look like to you? Because it could be different to what I think it should be.
Hi, Gavin Coyle. I'm the Gaffer, back again with two absolutely amazing guests. I was on their own podcast recently. They've a podcast called the Safety Collaborators Podcast, which is doing really well for them. I think they're nearly hitting up to 100 shows, and they're doing some really interesting work in the area of health and safety. But one of the main reasons I wanted the guys to come on today was to talk about a very interesting topic, psychology, leadership, culture, how to integrate teams, how to pull teams together, the characteristics of what it is to make a really good business person tick in terms of integrating the people within the business, working with third parties, working with all the stakeholders, and how that whole mix comes together based on people's characteristics. It's maybe a bit of a stretch for some people, but definitely in the small to medium enterprise construction market, if you know what ticks your boxes in terms of getting results, it's a very valuable tool. And these two ladies have the answers to that particular question. Karin, Ovari and Nuala, Gage. It is such a pleasure to have you on. I'm the Gaffer.
It is delightful to be having this conversation.
Yeah.
So straight away, you can see that I'm going to have a problem trying to hold on to the conversation with you two guys, because I thought I could talk a lot, but definitely these two ladies have a march on me on that. Yeah.
That's what he says.
What part of the world are you in, guys, at the moment?
I'm in the northeast of Scotland. So I live just about 20 miles north of Aberdeen at the moment. So, yeah, very but good. This is not where I come from. So, because in case anybody
with that accent
understands the accents, exactly. Yes. So original hometown is Sydney.
Brilliant. And Nuala, where are you?
I am on the other side of the world in sunny South Africa in Johannesburg, and we are busy heading into summer, which is delightful because I'm not that huge fan of winter. And in Johannesburg, otherwise known, I think we nickname it Gangster's Paradise. But fortunately, I get to come and visit up in the Northern Hemisphere quite often.
Brilliant. So the obvious question that everybody's going to be listening to, what the hell is going on with these two ladies? They're in, one's in Scotland freezing, and then the other one's in South Africa warming themselves. How did you come together? What's the backstory here? Come on, we're intrigued.
Before we even get there, have you heard about the law of average? So we could say we're a bit average, because if you've got your head in the oven and your feet in the freezer, on average you're okay. So we've got one in Scotland freezing, one in South Africa cooking. On average, we're okay.
Oh, here we go.
Yep. Karin, do you want to start with how we met?
Yeah. So many years ago, I came back from working on the oceans around really cold climates like Antarctica and places like that. And I was asked to see if I'd like to go and work on an oil rig off the coast of Nigeria. So I did. That was about 20 years ago, so for a while. And I loved it. Wow. So one thing led to another from those beginnings. I did that for quite a few years, and then through a whole bunch of mergers and acquisitions from the company I was working consulting with, I got the promotion of being fully employed again and moving to South Africa.
Wow.
And to head up the division for Sub-Saharan Africa consulting and training for the work that we do. And of course, in the first year or so, it was like, okay, one-man band inside an organisation. I had no clue what we were doing, quite frankly. So I then had to go and seek some help. So Katrina and Nuala, so both of them, and for those that don't know, there is a third partner in this, Katrina, and we started working together and we started to build the business that way. So that's how we met. So I was living there, loved it. And then they decided to move me to here, which is nearly 10 years ago. And I've been here kind of ever since, actually. And then during that time that we shall not name, over the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, whatever it was, we decided to start Safety Collaborations. And even though we work remote from each other, well, actually, Katrina has now moved to Scotland. She lives on the other side of Aberdeen, in fact, and Nuala supports us. Is still staying down there in sunny Africa, and all we want to do is go and join her. But yeah, so that's sort of how we came together.
So Safety Collaborations is a health and safety business, but it does have this twist, Nuala, doesn't it? It's not just health and safety, mainstream health and safety. What is the juicy stuff you guys do?
So we don't really deal too much with the mainstream health and safety on the technical side because we are very much all about people. And our big drive is helping people change the way they think about safety through better conversations. Mm-hmm. And nothing in life happens without a conversation, whether that's a conversation like we're having here or it's a conversation that you have in your head or with your family or with anyone. Everything happens through conversation. And recently we had a podcast with Lewis Senior from a company called Equilibria, and he made a statement that he said, we don't have difficult conversations. We have necessary conversations that we make difficult in our heads. And when you think about conflict, or you think about things not going right or things not being understood, so often we've made it difficult in our heads instead of just going, let's change the way we're talking and actually make it better, make better decisions, get on better, understand things differently, be able to challenge differently. And that's really our passion and our focus is around how do we get people talking.
It's just one of those risks, isn't it? Safety is just, safety will be, how would you say, one of the high risks within any construction, heavy engineering world. So by having the formula of how people interact, safety will be an obvious choice. And of course you have safety backgrounds, I'm sure, but this just is far more reaching than just health and safety. This is about how to run your business smartly, I would suggest, Karin.
It is. So when we work with groups of people, we work a lot with the leadership teams and with their teams. So how do we help them to have those necessary conversations where everybody, I'm going to use the term win-win, but it's not really about winning. It is, but in a collaborative sense, yeah? So how do we have conversations that we can collaborate and think together? How do we have an open mind? How do we have an open heart for change or what it is that we need to do going forward?
What I'm intrigued to know is are you following a particular philosophy, or are you following a international sort of best practice rule standard? Is this like, where's the model? Who defined your model, I suppose?
So I guess a lot of it comes from experience. So the experience that we both bring from working with I will call it high hazard industries. So whichever that is, whether it's construction, fast rail, oil and gas, right? And certainly have run with construction as well. So it's really by being in the field and working alongside the teams, the leaders, the business owners, to see how can they not just improve their day-to-day safety, but their day-to-day operations as a rule. One of the things that I think is really important if people can't speak up or have open conversations about something that's unsafe, what else are they not having an open conversation about? So, and this all impacts business, how we operate, the procedures, the finance department, the HR, the whatever it is. Yeah. So we want to encourage people to be able to speak up. Doesn't matter what area the business are in, whether it's the CEO, the shareholders, or the person on the ground. And so our learning, we've got a long list of learning, if you like. So we are conversational intelligence coaches. We have done emotional literacy. I do EQI. We do psychological safety. So there's all of these elements. We're great believers in how do we improve psychological safety? How do we improve emotional literacy to help us better have those conversations?
Wow. And Nuala, for yourself, what prompts an owner or a director or a leader to contact you guys? Like, where is the moment that they go, do you know what, we need help here? What does that look like?
Sadly, Gavin, I think it's probably similar reasons that people contact you is where something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Okay.
We don't need input. We don't need to change the way we're doing things. We've got this until we don't have this. And often companies are blindsided because they might have these amazing certificates on their wall that say, we've got an ISO certificate or we've been audited by so-and-so. And yet incidents and accidents still happen. And that's often where we get called in, where it's going, we don't know why this has happened. We believe that we were in a really good space. Is it culture? Is it the fact that our people are not being able to work well together because they keep thinking that they're, frustrating and different and difficult rather than going, actually, we just work in different ways. Yeah. So it is very much that case of something's gone wrong. Who do we go to? And we're not the Ghostbusters, but you can call us when something goes wrong. We'll still come and help.
Karin, for you, talk to me about accountability and what that means for you in terms of the workplace, and how big of a topic you think it is in terms of the, is it in the top three of what you're trying to address? Is there an issue in the workplace today in regards to accountability or not?
I might be a little controversial right now, but I think accountability belongs to no one person.
The stage is yours.
I think that word gets just bandied about the place. Right. Well, they weren't accountable for this or that. I mean, I think we all have roles and responsibilities. Doesn't matter where we are in that organisational structure. So within those roles and responsibilities come different levels of accountability, responsibility. And I think the word I'm looking for is an obligation to do things in a certain way. I think when we're inside a group or a team and we're working together in that business, we're obligated to do things for the benefit of all, not just for I. So I think that's where accountability might sit. It's also very interesting to me that we often hear people and everybody needs to be accountable. So just to counter what I've just said, right? But what does that actually mean to people? Do we actually have that conversation with the person in front of us and say, well, what does accountability look like to you? Because it could be different to what I think it should be. Yeah.
But should it be defined? Should it be defined somewhere in the, I don't know, whether it's the culture document or whether it's the value and mission document that, we need to be accountable to each other. We need to be accountable to the client. We need to be accountable to our families. We need to be accountable. I don't know. It's a broad topic. I appreciate that, but I constantly hear business owners saying to me,
"Totally,
took on this person and had the best CV in the world, but when it came to actually doing the job, it's like, well, that's not my job, or there's no extra bit."
I think we might step back there and say, well, how well were the expectations set out in the first place? Nuala, I'm sure, do you want to contribute to that one? I still prefer the word obligation, by the way, but yeah.
No, but it is an interesting one. But what I was actually going to say is, I think it links into the culture of the organization and the fabric of the organization. Yeah. How do we do things around here? How do we ensure that we all understand what is expected? Gavin, what do you expect from me? What is that going to look like? And how am I going to know if I'm on track or not? And vice versa. And accountability, and there's many things that actually are almost unwritten rules in an organization. So you can't replace an unwritten rule with a written rule. You have to replace an unwritten rule with a better unwritten rule. So if an organization is bringing on board people and going, I'm giving them everything that they need to do their job, and yet it's still not being done, what is the conversation that needs to be had? So it might be, he had a fabulous CV, but actually he doesn't fit in the culture of our organization. So are we, when we're interviewing, are we looking at just the competencies, or are we looking at organizational fit? Are we going, I'm employing you because, you know what, you're just like me. We get on like a house on fire, where actually my organization needs somebody who is just not like me, who is going to challenge me, because we will see things in a different way. And it makes me think back to Viktor Frankl, with his rights and responsibilities. We all have rights. We have a right to a safe working place. We have right to the equipment that we need to work safely. We have a right to good conditions, but we also have the responsibility to use that equipment correctly, to not take advantage of the organizations that we're in. So if that is happening, the big question for me is, what is your organizational culture? And do you understand each other in the organization enough? So Karin and I, we also are very involved in personality diversity, helping us understand what you were talking about. How do you tick? How does your business tick? Well, what makes me tick differently to you? And it doesn't mean that you're right and I'm wrong, but it means that you have different strengths and I might have different limiters, but you can match my strength if we bring it in. So it's a broad conversation, and I don't think that there could be a statement that we're going to stick up on the wall and go, that's what accountability looks like to us in this organization. But it's about, how do we make sure that we are all understood, that when things go wrong, that it's dealt with in a way that we are learning and growing, rather than in a way that actually breaks down the culture of the organization even further.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this whole area, and to your point, Nuala, I believe there is a science in putting people together in a way that you find people that are better than you to do the jobs that you're not good at, and then you find more of those people and plug the gaps, and therefore the ship will start floating. And I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And I don't think that you can I see a lot of people making mistakes where they go to an agency and they pick maybe a generic spec from Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever else, and then they regurgitate it into their own sort of mantra, and it doesn't hit the ethos of what you're trying to achieve, in terms of that person needs to have a technical skill that's beyond everybody else within the company, and that technical skill is X, and that's the high requirement for me, for this person, for that job. Is that something that you guys do in terms of helping companies identify personality traits that are missing within the company?
Karin, I can see your mind working overtime there.
So I think there's lots of tools out there, and we love the tools that we use because they're catalyst for conversation. They are not about, you're this, so +1 must equal 2. That's not quite how we see that. I still believe that it requires the conversation first to really get a deeper understanding. And I think something that you said, people employ people, or people put forward their CVs, and everybody's trying to get work or whatever, have their needs met in some way, whether it's the person employing or the person trying to find work. And that's commendable. That's part of getting on with life, sort of thing. So, but what happens in between time and having conversations, it's not so much about saying, right, we've got some people that are like this, so we better sticky tape them with some of these over here. It's more about, like, this is the team, this is the group, this is what our current strengths are. And I think what's really important when we talk about diversity of our strengths and our triggers is it's exactly that. It's bringing that diversity into the conversation and into the mix. So beyond, and that's only one thing to look at. I know that there are lots of assessments and tools out there for a variety of reasons. I think we use it in a way for the individual first to understand themselves. And the more that leader or that business owner can understand themselves, that puts them in a better position to understand others. Not so much that, we need this or we need that, or I need someone like that. It's like, I understand what I need. Does this person have that? They may not know what their makeup is in terms of character, if you like. And the other benefit of doing some of this work is that it helps you to understand when to say, okay, I have a strength, because a strength can also become a limitation. So just because somebody thinks, all right, this is my strength, so I'm going to be this way for always, sometimes it's about stepping back a little bit and going, okay, let me step back and let somebody else's strength shine. And that might be the better way to understand that. Does that make,
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm kind of having a little smile inside here, because I have a lady from South Africa and I have a lady from Australia. And the next question I'm going to ask is going to sort of be two of the right territories in the world that you would ask this question. And I'll ask you as an open question, and Karin, you can go first, and Nuala, you can give me the answer second. And I'm intrigued to see how this plays out, right? So, curveball coming down the road. Here we go. Are we going soft as a workforce?
Oh, that wasn't what I wasn't expect. I was expecting the debate between barbecues and braais or something, but
or rugby,
or Oh dear. Well, I've been on the planet for a while, and there's a part of me that thinks, oh my God, some people just need to pull up their big girl pants and get on with it. Other days, I recognise that may not be the best solution, including for myself some days. So I think, Nuala?
Yeah, I love the way you just handed that over.
I'm just going to hand that off
to the millennial. A couple of things that come to mind.
I'm going to give it to the millennial.
No, definitely not. But so recently, and I've shared this with somebody yesterday, I went to go and visit Karin in Scotland. Now, I love swings. I was a tomboy. I was the one who was climbing on roofs and, falling out of trees and breaking arms as a child and all that fun stuff. And I used to swing on that swing until I could get it to flip over, because that was the best thing in the world. So we go past this playground in Scotland, and I go, they must have a swing. This is so exciting. And then the look of horror and disgust on my face, because they did have a swing. It was a bucket seat with a safety belt. And I just went, what are you not teaching children? What are you not teaching people that are then going to be growing up and coming into the working world? Let's have a look at construction. We need angles and triangles. We need to understand balance. We need to understand momentum. Put a child in a bucket seat with a safety belt. They don't understand momentum because I couldn't push myself as an adult. I had to get Karin to push me if I wanted to be on that swing. They can't understand angles and triangles because guess what? That's what it teaches you, the same as riding a hobby horse. There's so many things that I think we are taking away because we are being so overprotective that we are not allowing people to learn and that we are not allowing people to think.
Or fail.
Because my risk appetite might be quite high. And, generally, South Africans, our risk appetite is quite high. We experience things that many other people in other countries don't. Other people coming over here, they're horrified with what we see as normal. But it means that I have to think. So when I get into the car here, guess what? My safety belt is on and my doors are locked before I drive out of my driveway. I won't wait for the automatic lock to come on because it's something I've learned that I need to do to manage my personal risk to keep me safe. So I don't know if it's as much as people are going soft, but I think people are not being allowed to learn and not being allowed to understand their personal risk. And then you stop thinking because there's a piece of paper that's going to tell me whether I can or I can't do it. Or I expect the HSE person to be looking over my shoulder and going, oh, Nuala, have you done that? Or don't do this. And I'm going, oh, I don't need to think because someone else will do it for me.
Yeah, and I think this is a massive topic, and I'm going to share a personal story. Yeah. My 13-year-old daughter went to school the other day, and I got a call about half an hour later. Pretty impressed that she missed the bus, so she walked to school, and I thought that was pretty impressive for a start. But the reason she rang me was to say that she didn't bring her school bag with her to school. And I was just like, you didn't bring your school bag to school? Like, how did you not know that you hadn't got this little backpack on your bag, on your back or whatever, you know?
And you're walking.
And you're walking. And it boiled down to digitalization and distraction. The phone was more important, and what was the engagement on the phone from the point of when she left the house to when she got to school. And I think any of the business owners that are listening to this, when we talk about accountability and soft belly, it's actually probably deeper again, I think, in terms of this distraction that we are allowing people to have within their own space that is supposed to be, you know, personal to them, that they can learn and grow in their own families and in their own communities, that we're robbing them of the attention they need to focus on things that are more important, like conversations. And that was one of the things that got me about what you guys are doing. Like, and this is, I suppose, one of the themes of today's podcast is this is a massive problem. Yeah. It's not just my problem.
It's a massive problem. No, and it's massive. Yeah. It's a global massive problem because you think about when we didn't have, this device that was constantly attached to us, and you would be driving, let's say you're driving to a supplier or you're going to go and see a potential client, and you have that moment in the car to think about what is it that I want to achieve. So you have thinking time. You've got the space around you. Now you're on a phone call. You're listening to a podcast. And if you're listening to us while you're driving, we love you. That's so fine. Carry on listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are being bombarded all of the time that, one, we're distracted. So things go wrong because we don't even remember how on earth we got to where we got to or how it went wrong. But also we don't have creative space anymore. A friend of mine's son, I said to him, how are you doing? Oh, I'm bored. So I said, oh, that's wonderful. It's like, what? I said, well, boredom gives you the space to be creative. Boredom gives you the space to figure out who you are and have conversations with yourself. In your business, it gives you the space to think about what is working in your business. What are the areas where you feel it may be not working as well? And then who do you need to go and get help from that? So do I need a specialist person to come and get advice from? Do I need to go and see an accountant? Do I maybe need some business coaching to be able to help me deal with the people issues that are going on in my business, or the fact that my profitability is low, or I can't understand why I should be having margins and I'm not? But if you're constantly on the go and you're not taking that time out and putting the digital world aside, where do you get the space to think and let your business grow?
We're robbing ourselves of time, basically.
We are, completely.
I'm doing some other learning at the moment with an institute called the Presencing Institute at MIT. And it's based on a theory. It's called the Theory U. But what I'm finding interesting, early doors yet, early days. So I'm going to see how we can incorporate some of this thinking, because it's about how do we lead from the emerging future. You know, a lot of what we're talking about here is based on what's here, what we know already to be true or not. Yeah. But how do we, when we have events happen, how do we look at them from an open, curious way? So I'm thinking even, you know, you're sitting there watching people on their phones and not doing, we know it's a problem, but how do we also help reframe it in some way so that we can look at it differently and maybe use the tools or use those things to help us think forward instead of forgetfulness or from behind? You know, meditation and mindfulness are two very different things. But, you know, and I think in line with what Nuala is saying around taking space and helping people understand that is actually okay, and it's a power tool. It's a power skill to do. I don't actually find it easy anymore, and for all the reasons you just mentioned for your 13-year-old, right? And I'm far from that. Right? So it's not that easy to just sit and do nothing. And I'm good at turning my phone off. That doesn't bother me. But then I'm probably watching YouTube or some other thing, you know. So it's not easy in this day and age. There is this expectation, particularly I think in the Western world, that we need to be on the go the whole time. And there's a lovely saying that says the intervention is directly related to the inner condition of the intervener. So if I'm not in a good place, how can I be good out here? How can I intervene with the world around me in the way that needs to be done if my inner condition isn't right? So, and we should be starting to help people understand that at an early age. They may not be ready to hear it, but, you know.
Speaking of being ready to hear it, I was going to ask Gavin, how do you think your audience is going to respond to words like meditation and mindfulness?
First of all, Nuala, I ask the questions around here.
It's your podcast. Come. What foolishness is this?
I love the way you just hijacked me podcast and became the host.
We're professionals, you know. Yeah.
No, but I'm a firm believer that if you've got a healthy mind and a healthy, shall we say, lifestyle to a point, not everybody's is perfect, and people think that meditation, all these people think that there's a utopian way of living. It's just another, you know, it's not at all 100%. And people have different ways of meditating. It could be going for a run in the afternoon or the morning. That's meditation. Like, you know, I think it has a poor stigma attached to it. But what Karin said totally resonated with me was that if you are in a good headspace and you feel fit and healthy and you've got that strong characteristic about you, that will emanate throughout your workforce. And, you know, other people will be inspired and will be encouraged and motivated because they see you as this person, like, how's this person pulling everything together? They're doing the accounts, they're doing the business, they're getting in clients, you know, and seeing them picking up scaffolding and, you know, picking up the brush and helping us out. Like, that person's just, you know, my idol, even though, you know, people look at football players as their idol. Like, I don't know how many people I've seen in construction through my lifetime. And I definitely had heroes in construction where you just went, like, that person's amazing. Like, how do they do what they do? And, you know, we need to sort of find a way to have some sort of a peer-to-peer learning, so that people recognize that, look, not everybody are like you, but you could actually improve these people by giving back and sort of, coaching these people to be the next leaders within construction. If that answers your question, Nuala.
It does, but I'll hand back to you as the host.
So we talked about accountability. We talked about the soft belly, or if there is a soft belly. The next question is, what are we going to do about the global shortage of labour in the workforce? What's the answer?
Androids? No.
Inspire the youth.
I've had this conversation a few times in the last couple of weeks in different meetings, and because it's a problem everywhere.
Epidemic.
It is. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to get any better, actually, not for a while. But what can we get better at? And maybe, funny, I'm going to use a term called reducing conversational waste might be one of them. How do we have, with the people that we have, be more succinct, have better understanding of each other in how we operate, so that when we do need to do the job, because I think it's pretty fair to say that everybody's doing a bit more than they once had to, but how do we make it easier in some ways, and sometimes slow down a little bit to speed up might be the answer. Slow down a little bit to have the conversation and truly set out the expectations for both sides, and do the planning that's needed, and don't maybe rush so quickly to get the job done, which I think is difficult, if you've been doing it for a long time, but also if you haven't been doing it for a long time. And those two people need different leadership and support as well, and everything in between. So I don't think there's an easy answer to that one, to be honest.
Any thoughts, Nuala?
Well, I was going to say, one of the things, and I see it not just here in South Africa, but in many of the countries I work in, is that younger people want what I term clean hands work. We want work that we're going to be able to sit behind a computer. We're going to be able to, let's get into cybersecurity, or we're going to work on crypto, and we're going to make all this fortune, and we're going to not actually go out somewhere where, construction's dirty. Let's not kid ourselves. You're getting down, you're getting dirty, you're getting involved, it gets physical. But it can be incredibly rewarding. And how we educate the youth and how we sell that narrative becomes incredibly important. And I've got two gorgeous nephews. The one is a mechanic, and he is the happiest person in the world. He absolutely loves what he does. The other one, I'm convinced, should have become a chef, because it was just absolutely amazing. He is amazing with food, but he's chased the money and he's gone into sales. And he's doing well, and he's having fun, and he's enjoying it. But I don't see that passion that he had when he was cooking. So with the youth, how do we help them understand that just chasing the money, or just chasing the unicorn social media of the expectation of what a good job looks like, or becoming a football player, or whatever it is, might not bring you satisfaction? And there is such a need. I mean, there's a need for laborers, for crane operators, for forklift drivers, your reticulated vehicle operators. There's such a need for artisanal skill that isn't being met. And I don't know whether, you almost need to do a campaign in the schooling environment and get people excited and go, remember when you were a kid and you were building mud pies in the garden, and you were constructing houses and buildings, and then you got to crush them down, and then you could build them again. You get to do that on a big scale, and it gets to be real, and it gets to be passionate, and you get to actually see it turn into something real. So I think if we want to improve labor and bring a bigger labor force into the construction or artisanal hands-on jobs, we need to be a bit more inspiring. And I think they need to, Gavin, you mentioned heroes, that you've got heroes in the construction industry.
Yeah.
Who are the heroes that the youth are seeing that's going to inspire them and go, I want to do that. I want to be a part of that. I don't just want to learn how to lay bricks. I want to learn how to build the most amazing, eco-friendly building that this world has ever seen.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think both of you have hit off the area of capacity, and I think people are taking on too much capacity, and they're not able to execute on that capacity. And one thing I've learned in business is you get to a certain size and you can only deal with a certain amount of work based on that size. And it's either you go big or you go home. If you make the next step. And people think that they can just go big and that it doesn't have any consequences. There's a reason why there is massive engineering companies that can do the Suez Canal and, all these infrastructure projects at, high pace, massive production levels. And then there's a reason why the person building the house can build a house and move on to the next house and the next house. The guys in the middle is where I see are the ones that probably are their vision and their aspirations are outperforming the reality of what they can achieve. And it kind of fits into what you guys are saying in the sense that keep it small, keep it beautiful. And you don't need loads of money in order to make your life fulfilled, and work for people that respect you and that value you and, then give that back to your employees in bucket loads so that they don't have their head turned for any reason. And I think if you have a high churn of labor, there's something not hitting the mark in terms of your business. People will gravitate to you, I believe, and I've definitely seen it. When you go chasing money, you actually don't get money. When your value system is right, money generally follows back to you in abundance. If you want to go back into your meditation land or world, not saying that you're sitting on couches there going whatever, but I definitely believe that your energy as a person in the business is emanates within the culture of your business, and it spills over into the client, and they will gravitate towards you.
Completely. There's a sign, or it was a meme, I think, and it just said, "You are responsible for the energy you are bringing in here today." Yeah. And that is it was such a light bulb moment for me, because you're right. I might have had a really frustrating morning. I might have had a fight with my spouse, or, the dog knocked the coffee over, and my energy is not something that's going to actually attract abundance, and it's not going to attract the way of working, and it has a massive impact. So yeah, I totally resonate with that, because it's been something I've been very, very conscious of for quite a while. What energy am I putting in? And I have actually cancelled meetings in the past because I have known that my energy was so not in the right space that it would not have been a good conversation. And I would rather postpone the conversation and say, right, now I can pitch up as Nuala. And I'm happy, and I'm going to give you what you deserve of my energy today.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of that as like you two you're great characters, and you're a bundle of laughs. Although you're very serious on occasion, but I was thinking during this podcast that delivering the type of programs that you are delivering, that's a high energy, high impact type of an environment for you guys to deliver. And you don't go in there sort of like, oh, here we go. We go to page 5 of what, here, that's energy sapping stuff. You want to give me some insight into that from a personal point of view of basically, giving it your all in these sort of workshop type environments, or I don't know what way it plays out in terms of how you deliver the message of what you're trying to, what you guys do, but I'm sure it does have an impact personally on you.
100%. 100%. And I think, and recently for me, I actually strangely did an in-person, like in the room, flip charts on walls type event, which I honestly haven't done for since the beginning of 2020. Right, I've done lots of workshops, but we do a lot of virtual work as well. So and we love that because it means that we can get to more people and to to share the love, so to speak, for a bigger audience. But I have to say, walking in there and I'll be honest, I was a little bit, I didn't actually know how I was very excited. I didn't have a lot of time to think about it. It had to happen pretty quick, which was for me a good thing. There's no time to labor over, oh my God, what if I don't get this or that or the other? Because that's healthy, by the way, and normal. But I think once you get in there and you start to see people's energy, and often we walk into a space where people's energy is not really where you need it to be for the workshop, right? So we have to be high energy to get them on board, and we need to do that really very quickly. I think, preparing for me personally, it's, good coffee, and kind of just get into it, and knowing that I have everything in order is quite important for me. Having said that, things go haywire and move all the time, and that's fine. So an important thing for me to keep my energy going to the beginning of a workshop is to make sure I've got everything I need, and then the world can be whatever it needs to be. That's fine. We might not do that. We might do that. Whatever it is. But I need to feel comfortable that everything is in order before I can get on with it. Yeah. And that's one thing. But I think it's longer than that. It's what you do every day as well. She says here, sitting like, okay, I need to, do a few things differently at the minute. But yeah.
What I'm thinking as well is that people will have negative energy and they will bring their negativity into that room, because I don't want to be here. I don't like this place. I don't want to be asked a question. I'm here because the boss says this looks good on our ESG or whatever else policy program. And I'm just going to switch off these two mad people that I've never met before in my life. But in some way, how do you protect yourself against absorbing negative energy, and then afterwards trying to sort of bring yourself back down to ground yourself, if you like, back to the meditation world, or back into protecting yourself from not absorbing negative energy?
One of the big things for me that I learned many years ago is that we are only responsible for our own energy. So we are responsible for the way that we show up. And when what I sometimes term energy vampires are around, because that's what they're trying to do, they're trying to suck out the energy, is that is their story. And we don't actually know what their story is in that moment. And you can either acknowledge it. So we will often do an opening to a workshop of, why are you here today? And why is that important for you? And what do you want to achieve? And I have had on numerous workshops where there's somebody in the room who goes, I'm here because my boss told me to. I know this all already, so clearly I'm here to just share my knowledge with you. And expecting a negative response from me as a facilitator. Whereas what I normally do is I go, that's amazing. We're delighted to have you here and we cannot wait to learn from you. So I will be referencing you on a regular basis during the course of today. So happy that you're going to be here and be engaged. Yeah, you can imagine that look is pretty much what you kind of get from a few, and they go, oh. But then I will, not in a meow kind of way, but I will engage that person and go, okay, so share your experience here. What have you experienced in this particular environment that maybe the rest of the group won't have because they haven't been in the industry for as long? And then the more you can bring people in where we go back to psychological safety, where they feel that they are included because they've now been acknowledged. they feel that they can learn because, this is an environment where we're going to be sharing knowledge and information. Someone who is going, oh, what can you possibly teach me? Suddenly goes, oh, I can contribute because I am at a level of experience that I have something to give. And then in that environment, creating a space for people to challenge and go, okay, well, what about this? How about that? I disagree, and create that. So psychological safety is about teams, and in workshops, that's what we do a lot. Is we're having a team, whether it's for a day or for a couple of hours or for a couple of days, and creating that space where learning can happen. So there are many ways of it, and don't get me wrong, it can be exhausting, especially when you're doing an offshore hitch for 4 or 5 weeks and you are working 12 hours a day plus reporting and all of that. You need debrief time.
Yeah.
The last vessel I was on, it was wonderful. There was a sauna, and I would just put a sign up that said, Nuala's in here. So all the boys knew not to come and open the sauna door. But, finding your thing, whether it's going to the gym or walking on the heli deck or going to the OIM's office and going, I need 10 minutes downtime. Can I please lie on your couch? And when I'm at home and doing workshops, I run a lovely bath. Have a glass of wine, whatever the case may be. So you do need to manage your energy, because in what Karin and I do, if you don't, it detracts from what we can give. So we know, I know in my heart of hearts when I haven't been at peak performance, and then I almost feel quite sad because I feel like I haven't given people the value they deserve. So I do take that quite seriously on how do I do some breathing exercises throughout the day so that I know that I am giving you everything that you deserve, because that's why I'm there.
Well said.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Let's move on to your podcast, guys. What is your podcast for the listeners and the viewers? And, it's not just you two guys having banter and having the fun. It does have a serious element to it, obviously. But give us an idea of why you set it up and, who you're pitching to. What is your mission? We
really want to be able to share knowledge and conversations and interest around what it takes to be organizationally safe, and not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. So we do talk about safety culture and safety leadership, but really we're talking about organizational culture and leadership for anybody. We just happen to work with high hazard industries. So the whole idea was to and we have lots of episodes where it is just the two of us. This having guests on has only been in the last few months, actually, which has been really joyful, really enjoying that. And so it is a bit of a mixed podcast in that way. But it was a way of being able to share thoughts, to have just good old conversation around some of these topics that might be beneficial to those listening. And we share those links with people. I know Nuala's very good at sharing it with as a sales tool, if you like, as a way, look, it's almost free consulting in some ways. Here's an episode of us talking about that subject that you're finding challenging or interesting or whatever the reason might be. Here's something to listen to. 20 minutes, 40 minutes, they seem to be growing a bit at the minute, but you're right, of your time, and you may get some value from that. So for us, it's part of the content mix that we want to give out there. And probably like you, starting it, like when we did the first recording, remember we did that first recording, it was like 2 hours. And 12 months later, we split it up and finally started. So the journey to podcasting is never just, we just turn on a microphone and off you go. It's not quite like that. I'm sure it wasn't for you either.
No, definitely not.
Nuala, what do you want to add to that?
Initially, our big reason of starting the podcast was to give back.
Yeah, exactly.
Our intent is to help people, to help people become better at what they do. We want people to come to work and we want them to go home to their families. And there might be supervisors, it might be people who have recently started a business or have been promoted. I can't tell you how many times in airports I'll end up chatting to someone and they go, oh, I'm on my way to start a new job and it's a new team. And I'm going, oh, before you do that, here are the 5 episodes you need to listen to because it will help you become a better person and integrate into this new team or have the conversations. And there are a lot of people, whether it's small businesses or people working in large organizations that just go, I'm not quite sure what I need to do here. It's not working. Fabulous. Go and listen to the 5 episodes on conversational intelligence. I don't really have the time to read a book. Great. Go and listen to the episodes that we've got where we've spoken about, different authors and what's in there and the nuggets out of their books. So, if there is anyone who's listening who goes, I need knowledge and I'm willing to absorb knowledge, but I don't know where to go for it, that's a great place to start because there are fabulous conversations. There's fabulous downloadable resources, from you might want to go onto your construction site and do a walk and talk, but you don't want to be that obnoxious person that's walking around with a clipboard looking for everything that's wrong, but you don't know how to do it differently.
Yeah.
Guess what? We've got a podcast for that and a downloadable that will give you open questions and a different way of going out there and having an impact as a leader, having an impact as a supervisor. So it really is around how do we help the people that maybe, can't bring us into the business. And then, as Karin said, as a sales tool, maybe we'll find that client that goes, that's what I'm looking for. We need more of this content.
And what about safety collaborations then? That's the company side of things, isn't it? So what does the future look like? I know you're strong in the oil and gas and energy world. What's the blueprint for the future, for the next couple of years?
We're having some interesting conversations around that.
Yeah, we are. I think, there's a bit of diversity in terms of, there's some other industries in the energy sector, like the wind, for example, or the renewables, that I'm pretty sure we could add a lot of value. I'm not sure, I know that we could add value and would add value. So how do we open those doors? So we are looking for some of that. And construction, actually, we are in conversations with a couple of organisations and how we can work with them. So it's quite broad, but it's still that focus of
communication, conversations.
Is how do we help people build the conversations that they need to have? So helping people change the way they think about safety, and safety being, do I feel safe to speak up? Do I feel safe to be my authentic self on the job? Will my team have my back? Do that sort of level safety is what we talk about. So am I emotionally secure enough to be able to stand my ground and not have fear of, being let go or challenged or
retribution,
retribution, basically.
Yes.
So that's really our big focus, and I don't see that changing. If anything, maybe we may even go even harder onto that in some ways, and through a variety of tools like personality diversity, as I say, those psychological safety workshops. We do quite a few different, have a few different short workshops, and then also some longer programs and bespoke programs as well if we need to.
Yeah, I totally see the crossover. Usually you'd say, stay in your lane, stick to your industry and stay within the language that you're accustomed to within that industry. But there's so much cross-transferable avenues for you guys. It's very exciting. That's I've seen some larger companies try to do this, and they just basically boxed up a generic solution and then pushed the marketing button and made a lot of money, but there was no tangible output whereas, you know, in fairness to you guys, you're going the hard slog, you're putting in the organic growth of the business by getting down and actually doing the work yourself. And then, as you said yourself, Karin and Nuala, like, you go back and you re-educate yourself, you listen to other people, you start implementing other ideas to layer more value on top of what you're trying to deliver. And I think it's highly commendable. I think I'm totally inspired by the two of you and what you're trying to do, because communication is key. And it doesn't have to be about safety. It's about the whole business communicating at the same level and everybody being on point. And I think there's a massive gap in construction in general where collaboration is an issue in general. And so, you know, and that's just not two companies not talking to each other. It's employees not communicating properly, and it's management not communicating to workers, and clients not getting a heads up to say there's a car crash coming here, but we're going to let you know. We're putting a barrier in the way so you don't get the hit. And you know, you're doing all of that stuff, so it's exciting, but it's also it's also a massive challenge. So kudos to the two of you. I'm going to throw some curveballs at you just because I like to do that on the show. And it's more on a lighthearted topic rather than, you know, the serious stuff we've been talking about. So, Karin, seeing as you're the first and you put your hands up, you're going to get the first curveball.
Okay.
Tell us something interesting about you that nobody would know, or nobody would have assumed, or not many people would be able to go, I didn't know that about Karin.
Crikeys.
I knew that would put you I knew that would put you in the stamp straight away.
So, funny enough, the two things that come to mind straight off the top are so universally apart, it's ridiculous. So one is I have actually sailed from one end of the planet to the other, which some people do know about me. Right. And then the other is I hate household cleaning products. And some people that know me know that as well. I don't use chemicals in the home. They're horrible. They're bad for you.
So what do you do about the hair?
Yeah, I'm having this debate myself. What are you assuming, by the way?
I'm not assuming anything. I'm just asking in general. Moving on. Nuala, knowing what you know now, what would you do different? And it doesn't have to be in business; it can be in life.
Geez, I'm glad you got that question.
I would learn to say, I would learn to say no earlier in life.
Yeah.
To Karin and the partners, or
sometimes probably
about many things. But you know, I think when I look back, probably the things that have made me least happy at different times in my life is because I have said yes instead of going, actually, you know what, I don't have the time, or I don't have the capacity, or I really don't don't have the interest. But learning to say no without having to feel guilty and without having to give justification. So that would probably be the one thing. That and probably have also just got a life coach earlier, or a business coach earlier in life, to go, this is having that space to just debrief and think about where it is that I want to go and what I want to do, because I love what I do. I took a break from it for a while. The non-shopper went into retail. It was not a fun experience, but it sounded like a good idea at the time. I was like, oh, yes, this sounds like a fab idea. Let's jump into that.
No, you should have said no.
Trust me, 8 months down the line, I was going, what are you doing? You hate this. Why did you even think it was a good idea? So the no, and have a coach or a coaching space available probably sooner in life.
Brilliant. I love it. Guys, I thoroughly enjoyed today's show. It was very insightful, and, you know, bar the laughs, but what you are doing and what we had discussions about today is very serious, and it's very applicable to every business, and kudos to you guys. If people want to get in touch with you, if they want to reach out, like, you know, I know you spoke about doing some discovery calls with people. Give us some pointers in that direction, if you don't mind.
So the easiest is probably email us at hello@safetycollaborations.com, because that will come to Karin and I.
Yep.
And helping people understand that we're just different and not difficult is so foundational to everything we do. So what we'd like to offer to your listeners is a 20% discount on an eColors personality diversity profile. And that just gives you a picture of who you are. And then with that, a 10% discount on a follow-up coaching feedback session, because it really, especially for people who are maybe in their businesses, or they've got a small business or a small team, and they're going, why is this just not gelling? That is a phenomenal place to start, because if you can understand self, you can then move on to understanding others, and then, you know, taking your business to another level. So that's what we would like to offer.
Absolutely.
So that can be in the form of in person or online. So if it's the other side of the world, which everybody is in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
Like,
and online works fabulously for that.
Does.
So the questionnaire is done online, and then the debrief would probably be in the virtual space, because it makes it quite easy.
Very easy.
Very kind of you. So they just use I'm the Gaffer or some sort
I'm
of
the
reference.
Gaffer is great. Yep. They can just reach out to us.
hello@safetycollaborations.com, and the subject, I'm the Gaffer.
No, we'll put it all in the show notes. I think we've left it all on the table, guys. I can't thank you enough for your time, your energy, your enthusiasm, your motivation, and your inspiration. You've been brilliant, and I'd look forward to having you back on again in the future, if you don't mind.
Oh, it'd be brilliant. We'll share that.
Absolutely.
No problem. Thanks very much, guys.
You.
All right. Thank you so much.